Welcome to the Anna Leon Novels channel. That day, I quickly entered my father's restaurant. I headed towards the waiter. Where was my father? He pointed to me inside. I found my father lying on the ground, and next to him was my father's wife, Tara. My father woke up. He was completely fine. Then suddenly, oh God, please save my husband. I cannot live without him. He put my father in the ambulance. I looked at her, tears filling my eyes, as she walked away from us. He stood next to Nizar, the head chef in the restaurant, and said to me, "Your father has not missed a single day of work in 17 years. He opened and closed the restaurant himself every day. I am sure he will return to his strength soon." He was trying to comfort me. I went with my father's wife to the hospital, and there the doctor said, "Our patient is still unconscious. Unfortunately, we can't do anything at the moment." Tara started crying and said to the doctor, "Please save my husband. We need to know what is affecting his nervous system. Otherwise, he may never come out of the coma." We left the hospital and I was crying all the way home, but Tara didn't look as sad as she was. She called the head of the hotline, Nizar, and said, "I will come to the restaurant management from now on. I want to see everyone at the airport at exactly 8 a.m. I was shocked my father had fallen into a coma a few hours ago, and now she looks like she has forgotten everything. Is this the time? The right thing to think about in a restaurant and what you know about running it. Nizar worked with my father for years. He should be running it. How dare you? I don't remember asking for your opinion. Your father was too lenient with you. I think it's time for you to learn discipline. You will also go to the restaurant early tomorrow to the restaurant, but I have school. You can forget about school. I will be the one who will take care of your education from now on." The next day, I started working as a dishwasher in my father's restaurant. All the workers in the restaurant knew and loved me since I was a little girl. They were all sad for me. The chef, Nizar, used to tell me that my father would get better soon, and he will come back home. Then he will deal with his wife so you can go back to school. Don't worry, I spent the whole day washing dishes. I was so tired, but I ran to the hospital as soon as the restaurant closed. I was sure he couldn't hear me, but I told him everything his wife Tara was doing. Then I fell asleep on the couch next to him. The days passed quickly. I spent 2 weeks washing dishes all day, and at night I would go to the hospital to tell my father everything that happened during my day. Even though he was in a coma, then I would sleep on the couch next to him one night. I woke up to a strange sound. I looked around to see where the sound was coming from, but it stopped after a while. I heard the sound. Once again, it seemed like someone was cracking their fingers. I stared at my father's fingers, waiting for any movement. Suddenly I saw him crack his left finger. He cracked it 3 times. It was clear that my father was trying to communicate with me. I felt extremely happy. I jumped for joy. Nothing could make me happier than this. I soon noticed something strange. My father was not cracking his fingers randomly. He did it a specific number of times. Sometimes he would stop and then start cracking again. At that point, I realized that he was trying to tell me something. I brought a piece of paper and began to write down the number of cracks. At first, he cracked 3 times. Cracked, cracked, cracked. He stopped for a while, then cracked once, stopped again, then cracked 10 times and stopped. Again, then it snapped once, and finally it stopped and didn't snap again. All night long, I looked at the numbers I had written down. 3, 1, 10, 1. I had no idea what they meant. The next day, I told the head chef, Nizar, what had happened. He was so happy to hear that my father was showing signs of improvement. I showed him the numbers I had written down. He looked at them for a long time, and after a moment he said, shaking his head in despair, "Maybe he's doing it unconsciously, and we're trying to give it more than it deserves." I thought about what he said. Maybe he's right. Later that day, I realized that my father was conscious because he started snapping his fingers again. When I counted, I noticed that he was repeating the same numbers that he had popped before. At first he clicked 3 times, then clicked once, 10 times, then once. I counted all the clicks and wrote them down. By midnight, I discovered that they were repeating the same four numbers constantly. Meanwhile, things were not going well in the restaurant. The workers were very unhappy with my stepmother because she was always there dictating orders to them. She was telling everyone how to do their work and constantly giving wrong instructions, which led to repeated quarrels between her and the chef, Nizar. That night, Nizar came with me to the hospital. He told my father what was happening and complained to him about Tara's behavior. Of course, my father couldn't respond to him verbally because he was in a coma, but suddenly he started clicking his fingers again. Nizar counted the clicks with me, and when he realized that the numbers were the same as the previous numbers I told him, he said in astonishment, "Oh my God, the president is definitely trying to tell me something. Is it a code? What do these numbers mean?" Suddenly his eyes widened. "Is it the secret code for the safe in the restaurant?" It never occurred to me. You might be right. I'll go quickly and make sure, and I'll tell you the result later. Nizar left quickly while I was thinking why. My father will tell us the safe code. I didn't understand. I fell asleep thinking about those numbers. I woke up to the sound of the phone. It was Nizar calling, and his voice sounded sad. These are not the safe code numbers. I must have been wrong. I smiled when I hung up the phone. I knew my father was trying to tell us something very important, and I had to find out what it was, no matter how hard it was. At that moment, my father started snapping his fingers again. I was surprised when I got up after that because he snapped 21 times. He stopped for a short while, then snapped once. He kept snapping until he stopped completely. What silence fell in the room, I checked the numbers I wrote, 21, 124, 3. Then he took. I took a break and started to differentiate again until I got a new sequence. I wrote all these sequences one by one. I looked at them for a long time while trying to solve the puzzle. At that moment, I heard the sound of my father's breathing. It became clearer. I realized then that he was just as excited as I was, waiting impatiently for me to solve this puzzle. Suddenly, I understood everything. Of course, I can convert these numbers into letters. The sound of my heartbeat filled the room. I wrote the entire alphabet on the paper and gave each letter its corresponding number in alphabetical order. The third letter was Ta, the first was Alif, the 10th was Ra, and the first again was Alif. When I finished writing the letters corresponding to the first four numbers, a familiar name appeared in front of me. Tara, my father's wife, had solved the puzzle. My heart was about to stop. I started matching the numbers with the letters in the second sequence. I couldn't believe my eyes. When I finished all the letters, the word was complete. As for the last sequence, it contained 7 numbers. After I finished decoding it, I lost consciousness when I read the entire sentence. Tara made my determination. She understood everything. Tari poisoned my father. It is clear that the poison she gave you affected his nervous system and put him in a coma. I hugged my father, feeling happy and shocked at the same time. "Dad, I can't believe she did this to you. I can't believe it." I immediately called Nizar and told him I found out. "Oh my God, we have to go to the police immediately. I'm on my way to the hospital." We went to the police station quickly. Then the police officer told us everything. This is a story that is hard to believe, but investigating the mother, it won't hurt. We will summon your father's wife for investigation. If she really poisoned him, she will confess. She won't be able to deceive us, as the police officer expected. After they pressured her, Tara confessed to everything she did. She poisoned my father so she could take over the restaurant. Sarah used ghee that she bought from the dark web. She told my father, "While offering him the dish in which you put the poison, I am trying a new recipe for the menu. Do you want to taste it and tell me what you think?" The poison penetrated my father's entire body and disrupted his nervous system, which put him in a coma. When the doctors discovered the cause of the coma and the type of poison used, they treated my father using the appropriate antidote. After a few days, my father opened his eyes. He smiled when he saw me next to his bed. "Little Malake, you saved my life and brought down that criminal woman." I asked him how he was able to snap his fingers while he was in a coma. After a while, I began to hear what was happening around me, but I could not open his eyes. The only thing I could do was move. "It is my finger. I realized that I could communicate with you in this way. I had to trust you, and I succeeded in solving the puzzle. You are smart, just like your mother. I am sure she would be very proud of you if she was alive with us now. My father is now in good health. He is back to manage the restaurant. As for me, I have returned to school, but I still go to the restaurant every day after school. However, I no longer wash the dishes. I have started helping Nizar in the kitchen. He is the best chef I know, and he teaches me all the secrets of his profession. As for Tara, she is still facing the court on charges of attempted murder. I always felt that she was not a good person, but I did not. I could imagine that she could be that evil. Fortunately, she will spend a long time behind bars for what she did, and she will have a lot of time to regret her actions. Terror ran through my body, and I started to tremble. I immediately erased any doubts I had before. My little sister must have some kind of talent, a strange talent.